Hi, I'm Jim. I'm a narcissist. I have narcissistic personality disorder. Making these videos as my firsthand recollection of kind of things I've seen, steps in my wellness journey, working with my therapist towards emotional and mental betterment. Making these for videos for anybody that's just looking to gain information into the disorder. And today I wanted to talk about something that I don't necessarily identify with, but I really think it's important. When you're dealing with a narcissist, there's always abuse, right? That's just how it is, right? Now, there's always going to be emotional abuse, okay? And that is definitely what I've done to people throughout my life. But there's also the chance of physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse. So there's all other types of abuse, right? That narcissists can engage in, but there's always going to be at least emotional abuse. Now, different types of narcissists might be a little bit more prone to different types of abuse, but all engage in emotional abuse. Even the ones that have the type of narcissistic personality disorder that I have may engage in physical abuse. That's not something that I have engaged in. I'm not going to say, hey, I'm awesome, I'm amazing. My level of verbal abuse in the past has been just as disgusting, right? I can think with my baby mama ex, things that I said and screamed, and as well as with my kids, that physical abuse might have actually been better sometimes than what I was putting them through verbally and emotionally. So I don't want to give you the impression that I'm acting like I'm holier than thou, that I'm not a physical abuser, right? My emotional and verbal abuse can be worse. So really important. I'm not a licensed professional. Anything. I'm an auditor, but I do have a diagnosis. I have lived my life with this disorder, so I feel like if at any point I have knowledge that could be helpful, and man, I really think today that what I'm going to talk about, this could be helpful. I feel like I have an obligation, right? The reason I say helpful, what I kind of want to talk about is when narcissists are pushed in a certain way, it definitely increases the potential for things. So I think if you're dealing with a narcissist, there's definitely things that you might do that could push them to be physical. And I'm not putting the blame on you. I promise you, I am not. I'm not in any way, shape, or form. Just at the end of the day, I'm only telling you from my first hand what I felt like some of my triggers were to really set me off as far as my verbal and my emotional abuse. And if this information can help you to understand that maybe you're triggering a narcissist in a way that could potentially be dangerous, I think that could be helpful. And if you are a narcissist, man, identifying some of these triggers are kind of huge, so we can go ahead and make sure we don't elevate and escalate, right? Again, these are things we want to work with our therapist. We want to definitely incorporate these triggers, into our wellness and betterment plan, right? We want our future to be better than our past, right? So when dealing with a narcissist, it's really, really important. It all kind of comes down to the same kind of like metaphor, right? Don't back them into a corner, right? So a lot of narcissists lie. So, and there are times where you can be like, example, Jim, you drink from a gray water bottle. Jim doesn't know where his mouth is. Found it. No, I don't. I drink from a blue water bottle. Well, the last thing you want to do is put this thing in front of a narcissist's face and no, look, this thing is clearly gray. I am showing you verifiable, irrefutable proof that you are wrong. Lying wasn't something that I engaged in a whole lot. I definitely would stretch and stretch the truth to make myself a little bit more glorified, or less ashamed but very common for just flat out lying. And I'm not sure if you're aware. Don't narcissist. So the definition of lying is the person has to know that what they're saying isn't true. Not sure if you were aware of that, man. That freaked me out when the first time that I learned that. So if I'm colorblind and I actually see this as blue, I'm not lying when I tell you it's blue, right? I have to know. I have to be able to see that it's gray and choose to tell you it's blue when I know that it's gray for it to actually be a lie, right? So when I say lying, that's what I'm referring to with the narcissist, right? They know that what they're saying is false, okay? And the disorder is having them present the truth as present something false as truth. So when you present them with irrefutable, just non-negotiable evidence that what they're saying is not factual and they are lying, right? That's what backs them into the corner, right? And they're going to retaliate, okay? It's this disorder doesn't allow a person to say, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry, I was wrong, my bad. Like that's just not how this works, unless they are on a journey, of wellness and betterment, and they've made progress. But someone that's not acknowledging this disorder and or might not be aware that they have this disorder, that is not how they're going to respond. And the reason I say that is there is then going to be a chance not just for them to retaliate, but I mean they could physically come back. They could potentially come back physically, right? I mean, you got to understand. So at that point, they're escalated. They're focusing on a part of their brain that they're not able to control as well, right? They're working off a pure emotion, right? And you've gotten them. And this is a dangerous situation because, like I said, they normally don't have very, very good control. We normally don't have very good control over our actions, our behaviors, and the things we say. But now you've put us in a very, very intense emotional state, and it's even worse. So the potential or the propensity for a narcissist who's been backed in the corner, and you've showed them that there's no way they can deny that they're lying. That I mean, it could become physical, and I need you to be aware that that's a potentially dangerous situation, right? So you got to be careful, right? Whenever you're dealing with a narcissist. Am I saying, hey, if you know somebody's a narcissist, just let them lie and agree with them? Everybody makes their own choices in this world, right? I'm not making your choices for you. I just need you to be aware. I'm a narcissist, and I'm telling you the dangers that I think that situation is going to present, and how you decide to proceed. Hey, knowledge is power, right? If you've got the power, you make your own choices, right? So that metaphor for being backed in the corner, I mean, it's anything that you do that pushes that narcissist into the corner is that danger zone, right? You got to be careful whenever you're humiliating a narcissist, especially the more people, the more humiliation, right? Here's the thing. So it's just me and you, right? It's just the two of us. We're hanging out watching TV, and I get up to go get some popcorn. You pull my pants down, right? Hey, I'm a little ashamed. I'm a little embarrassed. I might come at you with some cross words, but let's put somebody else on that couch with us, right? My reaction's even different because now the shame is elevated, right? So let's go even further, and I don't care. I got my nice underwears on. I'm wearing my little pinkies, and they looking all sexy. It doesn't matter. You pants me in front of a crowd of people, like we're let's say like a concert or something. It's even more escalated, right? The more shame, the more humiliation, right? The worse the propensity is, for my reaction, right? Let's say I'm on a podium and I'm giving a seminar, and you pants me, right? Man, like I said, the higher the level of that shame, that I'm experiencing, man, the worse my reaction is going to be. And I'm just saying this because if you know somebody's a narcissist, again, you got to make your own decisions. But you got to understand, that you could potentially be creating a volatile situation. And they may respond physically. They're people you got to be careful, like practical jokes. And here's the thing, like I said, I'm a narcissist with narcissistic personality disorder, right? You got to be careful trying to engage people like me in tit for tat, right? Weird saying. I should have looked that one up before I did this if I even knew I was going to say it, right? But what I'm saying is, you flick my ear, right? And I come back with a pop in your ear, right? And you give me a push in the chest, right? I come back, with a big punch in the arm. What I'm saying is, you gotta be careful when you're going back and forth trying to get each other a little bit worse, right? I'm a narcissist with narcissistic personality disorder. You have no idea the depths that I will go to make sure that I finish on top, that I'm the last one, right? And here's the thing, like, when we're going back and forth, you don't know, like, you can't even begin to imagine. I plot like that, and I've talked about it in my other videos. For me, my narcissistic personality disorder sits on my shoulder like a demon, screaming right into my ear what it wants me to do, right? And when we work with a therapist in our wellness plan, right, we grab them off our shoulder, we crumble them up as small as we can, we put them on our foot. That dude will always be with us. Like, there's no cure. I will always have narcissistic personality disorder, but right, I'm gonna make sure that dude is underneath my foot and I control my decisions and not him. When he's on my shoulder screaming, man, he's telling me what to do, and it's hard for me not to listen, because he's controlling me like a puppet master, right? So you gotta understand, like, you and I are kind of like going back and forth, right? Like, we're in a little bit of a silent feud, or even like a little prank thing, and I get you a little bit, you get me a little bit more. Like, that thing is screaming at me 24/7. And I tell you, it's screaming bad stuff, right? It will do whatever it takes to make sure it finishes out on top. I promise you. I mean, and when I say that, like here's the thing. Let's just use like a scenario. Like, I'm a narcissist. I have narcissistic personality disorder. Come steal from me, right? You have no idea. I mean, like, my demon is screaming illegal things. Physical violence is like the beginning of it. I mean, I haven't acted upon it, but I can promise you, like, throughout my life, when some stuff has happened to me, man, that dude has screamed some stuff that, like, I'm humiliated and embarrassed to share, right? I mean, I've plotted like waiting places, you know what I mean? And let me give you an example. And here's the thing, it doesn't go away, right? When I'm living in my disorder and and that dude's on my shoulder and I don't have him underneath my foot, I'll give you an example. So I was in a little fender bender years ago. Person got out and they're like, oh, I'll pay for your damage, we don't have to include the insurances. I'm like, yeah, no worries. No problem. You know what I mean? Least I can do. I'll be nice, right? So we exchanged information, and man, they didn't come across with anything, right? And of course, like, the damage to their vehicle was terrible, right? And I just had a little bit of damage, nothing crazy. But still, they told me they were gonna pay for it, and they didn't. I can't tell you how many years that festered in my head. And here's the thing, like, I didn't know how to go and get money out of their account to pay for my damages. But it wasn't a day, it wasn't a month, it wasn't a year, but it was a significant amount of time longer. And I did illegal physical acts that I felt were very equal or compensatory to the financial restitution that they had promised me. Again, this was not a day, a week, a month, or a year. And I just had that dude, he would never let me forget it, ever. He just kept bringing that up, right? Now I can look back. That was a trigger, feeling like they got the best of me, right? Now, I'm on my wellness journey. So hey, so you guys that are on yours as well, let's flip the script. What are we doing if we're in that situation? How do we shut this MFR up? What do we do that crumbles them up and puts it underneath their foot? Like for me and my therapist. So one of the things I do, so if that were to happen today, maybe a couple of weeks go by, and I'm in communication with them, and then, it's just obvious that they're not going to pay, you know what I mean? So before I when I start getting these thoughts, I'm going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to be like, okay, so let's walk through this, right? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a physical act of retaliation, right? That's going to cause property damage, right? What happens, if I get caught, right? And I'm going to walk myself through the repercussions of my actions, right? Well, what happens then? Maybe I get arrested. Who's going to bail me out? Maybe I don't get bailed out. Maybe I get fired from work, right? And I walk myself through that path, right? Then what I do? So is there any other way to look at this? Okay, because this dude's screaming, hey, they screwed you over. They screwed you over. They screwed you over. There's a complete different way to look at this, right? I'm driving around. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with my vehicle. I got some scrapes, some scratches, nothing major. They got like $1,500 worth of damage to theirs, right? Like in the end, I really got the best of the situation. I really did, so I look at it like that, and that's what I do. I say, hey, can this be viewed in another way? And that usually shuts that dude up. And here's the thing, if he comes at me again, no, they got the best of you, and you got this, and you got that. Actually, they didn't. They riding around in their car all effed up, man. They got bungee cords on the trunk. And I mean, I went home with a hammer and banged out my fender a little bit. I mean, I got a Jeep Wrangler. I mean, my thing made metal, Your car made a little plastic. That thing folded, right? So is there another way to look at it? And that's, yeah, I mean, oh man, I'm driving around fine. Nobody that looks at my vehicle can even tell that I was in an accident. Yours is effed up. I mean, you look like that derelict, who's been driving around for like years and years, with a broke car that won't get it fixed, right? So these are the things that I do. And I tell you, like, this is gangbusters, man. This has been working amazing for me, right? But I need you to know that I promise you, if that was a person that I knew close, and I think we can all be escalated, especially people with NPD can be escalated to physically abusing someone, right? That's just not something that I engaged in. But there's definitely things that could happen. Now let's say I knew that person, like that person, and I'm seeing them every day. Like that definitely could have been something that possibly entered into a physical altercation, right? The reason being is, again, they felt like they got, well, I'm applying, I don't know the scenario. I mean, hey, for all I know, they lost their job and they're out living, on the streets homeless. I mean, but still the scenario I'm using is when you think you're going to screw over or get the best of someone with narcissistic personality disorder, you got to be careful. Like, this isn't something that I'm going to think about for like a couple of minutes or a couple of hours. This thing's going to fester for years if I'm not on a wellness journey. I mean, and you're not going to leave my mind. One of two things is going to happen, right? So with me, before I acknowledged I had this disorder and I accepted that I want my future to be better than my past, and I was ready to go on a journey of change, right? Only one of two things was going to happen. I was going to get you back, or I was going to die, right? That's it. I mean, that's the only thing that was going to stop that demon from screaming. I mean, that's how that works, right? Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because you need to be cautious. You need to be careful. Again, you make your own decisions. But if you're dealing with a narcissist, you need to understand that I'm imagining that their brain and their disorder works as, very similar, if not the same way as mine does. And, if you were to come to me and say, hey, Jim, what do I need to do to be to make sure that like this narcissist doesn't physically harm me? And that's one of the things I'm going to tell you. You know what I mean? Is that you got to be careful of that. And it comes to all facets. If you haven't watched the videos and you're in a relationship with a narcissist, right? That has narcissistic personality disorder. Whether they are acknowledging their disorder or they're not, they're on a path of they're on a wellness journey, working with a therapist. Don't care. right? My opinion and my advice is going to be the same. In that relationship, immediately cease all communication. Do not let them into your life at all in any facet, in any way. The reason being, the chance for them to hoover and try to drag back in and go back to the abuse is just too high. I mean, if there was a 10% chance, it would be too high. I mean, but here's the thing: odds are not in your favor. I mean, they're the opposite way. I mean, that's not the advice that I'm going to give you. That's the advice that just about every counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist is going to give you. They're going to tell you that dealing with someone with this disorder, if you're in a relationship with them, you need to end the relationship. You need to cease all communication. You need to make sure that you don't allow them into your life. But you got to understand, we are not going to take that news well. We're not going to be like, oh, well, you just blocked me. You dumped me and blocked me. Let me go about my life. I mean, I told you how I plot, and you need to be aware that that's a potential consequence. Yeah, and I'm not saying this to scare you, because I know it's scary. I'm just telling you what's going to be going through their mind, because that's what would be going through my mind, right? And here's the thing: it's when you have this disorder, it's even worse. So you're going to break up with them over valid reasons. And even if you don't tell them, even if you do tell them, you send them a text. Hey, I've done some research on narcissistic personality disorder. I've acknowledged that you have it. I'm going to cease all communication, because at this point, the emotional abuse is not something I want for my future. So please respect my wishes. Never try to contact me again. I want no interaction with you at all. Right. I would strongly suggest that you work with a therapist and do try to work on yourself. But even if you do, I have no interest in pursuing a relationship of any kind with you. Again, I want to cease all communication. See you. Right? Now, they're going to receive that text, and trust me, here's the thing. That demon's not going to sit on their shoulder and be like, man, they right. They got some good points. No, the demon's going to keep screaming why they're wrong, why they're not telling you the truth. And even if they're willing to accept any of the truth, the plotting and the scheming stuff, I mean, how do I get them back? How do I retaliate? If it is over, they're not getting the best of me. They're not going to ghost me and get the final word, right? I mean, this is where you get afraid. Like, what are they planning and plotting to do? Like, this is where your safety is in danger. So sorry. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish I had better advice. I wish my opinion was different, but it's not. It's not. I care about your well-being. I don't want to see you hurt emotionally or physically. So I need you to know that. And hey, on the other side, you've got this disorder, right? Hopefully you acknowledge you have it. You're working with a therapist. Man, you got to see those triggers, right? You got to know they're coming. Somebody dumps you, right? You got to be ready that your mind's going to start lying to you, right? It's going to start creating false realities, right? You're going to start wanting to plot ways to get them back. You might want to start plotting, ways to retaliate, physical damage, property damage, things like that, right? You now know you have this disorder, okay? You got to fight it. You can't let this thing win. You can't let it live on the shoulder. Remember? Put it underneath the shoe. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. Nobody does. We don't have a right. We don't have a right to treat them like that. Right? Get control of your actions. Get control of your behaviors. Do the right thing. That's what needs to be done. And, here's the thing. I mean, you're working with a therapist, because if you listen to even just this video, right, that's it, right? First, you have to acknowledge. Second, you got to get a therapist. Again, don't do it on your own, right? Get the therapist. Work with the therapist, right? But, hey, here's the thing. You feel like you got nobody to talk to? I mean, hey, don't hit me in the comments. Don't hesitate to reach out and be like, man, I'd really like to talk, right? I mean, I'll shoot you my number, right? You want to text, you want to talk, whatever, right? I will try to do whatever I can to help you in any way, right? But we can't do what we did before ever again, right? That's not who we want to be in our future. Future better than the past, right? And sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it's fucking really hard, right? But that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do. And hey, for those of you that don't acknowledge that you have this disorder, man, I don't even know what to say to you, right? If you're not willing to acknowledge you have this disorder, nothing's going to change. And your past is going to be your future, and that's just going to keep on happening, and as long as you're on the earth. And if you're, I know you have the disorder, and I'm sorry. I have no remorse for you. The reason being is you're hurting people. Emotional, physical, sexual, financial. We know you're at least emotionally abusing people, but like I said, it could be physical, it could be sexual, it could be financial, right? You're abusing people. I can't feel sorry for you, right? I wouldn't feel sorry for myself. I promise you I wouldn't. And I got narcissistic personality disorder, and I want to make myself a victim, and I can't. I would never allow myself to feel sorry. I now know I have this disorder, and I will not allow myself to feel sorry for myself about if I were to ever hurt anybody, because I now know what my triggers are. I have a wellness plan, and if I chose to hurt people, that would be disgusting of me, right? So I wouldn't do that. I will not do that. I won't do that, right? I really like that my journey to betterment and emotional wellness is working amazingly. I really like that I'm not I don't think I'm gonna abuse people in the future. It comes down to little things. You know what? You deserve a story. I'm gonna give you a story. I'm gonna give you a story. You ready for it? It's gonna be a fun story, right? And I'm gonna leave on a positive note. Leave on a positive note. So last night was my son's birthday dinner, and one of the traditions is if it's your birthday, you pick the restaurant, and we all go. So it is my ex, it's my youngest son, my middle son whose birthday it is, my oldest son, his wife, and their daughter. Now, we all have our triggers, and some of them, hey, sometimes we can't pivot, right? And let me explain. I love seltzer water, right? And it is one of those that, like my kids, when they go out, that's when they get to have soda. Right? Now, I keep seltzer water at home, but I don't do soda. Well, very rarely, right? I'll do a diet soda, right? But I don't like to drink diet soda with dinner. I like seltzer water. I live in the South. They don't know what it is. So I always get these, when I was in my NPD, it was always a battle, right? By definition, right? And people have called it club soda, and here's the thing, I've looked it up, I know the actual definitions, and I've gotten into yelling, screaming matches with people over it. It's insane. So we're at the restaurant, and I order a seltzer water with lime. That's my drink. And she's like, oh, do you mean a club soda? I was like, oh, no, seltzer water. And she's like, I don't think we have that. And I was like, oh, you guys have a bar. I was like, you have one of those little fountain handles. I was like, yeah, just tell them that you want the bubbly water, right? And drop a lime in there for me. And she comes back, she's like, we don't have a full bar. We don't have one of those fountain drinks, and at that point, I was like, oh, no problem. Let me go ahead and just get a plain water with lemon. And, somewhere in the dinner, the ex had made some kind of comment about, about something. And I was like, I don't know if you noticed, but, my wellness journey, it's going really well. Look at what happened with the seltzer water. I was like, that's happening in real time. There's no long pauses. Me calming myself down. Me taking deep breaths. I'm like, I'm doing it in real time. And she's like, what? I didn't even think about that. She's like, just as soon as I I heard you order the seltzer water, I already tried to like dial everything out because I immediately thought you were just gonna blow up and, and I'm trying to ignore it. But what a win. And here's the thing, without even realizing, like I said, it's becoming like second nature now, right? And the things that are going on in my head is, hey, this girl probably only 18, maybe 19, 20. She could care less about my seltzer water, right? She might be a college student. She might, whatever. She just coming here to make a little bit of money. She doesn't need some old man yelling at her over seltzer water, right? And honestly, am I mad that this little girl can't get me seltzer water? No, I'm mad the establishment doesn't have seltzer water. And honestly, like at her age, do I feel like she has to know the definition of what seltzer water is compared to club soda? All of these thoughts, they're just immediate reactions, right? And second, right, after all that, if I yell and I scream, am I getting my seltzer water? Right? No. All I'm gonna do is make this girl's day worse. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna take my bad stuff and give a little bit of it to her, right? So my head's processing all these things like in real time, and it's happening with no problem now. Whereas before it was huge, and in the beginning, man, that took time, right? So that interaction with her might have taken more like a minute and a half, because man, I got to slow down. I'm talking to myself in my head. I got, you know what I mean, before I'm answering her. But now it's just bam, 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 right? And for me, that's a win. That's not a little win. Like, I'm not just proud of who I am and who I'm becoming. I'm proud of who my kids see. And a lot of that comes with being ashamed of who they saw before, right? What it must have been like having to deal with me berating, waitresses over seltzer water, right? But now I'm proud. Right? And they might not even notice or acknowledge it, and that's fine. I do. Like, I'm proud sitting in that seat and not embarrassing them, right? And like I said, that win for me is huge. And that's just one of them. Like, these things happen more and more, right? Future better than the past.